Good day, dear listeners. Welcome to Red Flags Radio. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button so you don't miss our daily episodes. At the end of the episode, leave a comment and share your thoughts on the story. I would love to read what you think. All right then, let's dive into today's story. Michael Raymond had always considered himself a lucky man. At 35, he possessed everything a modern American dream checklist might include: a prestigious senior developer position at a Silicon Valley tech company that actually paid him what he was worth, a stylish home in San Francisco's outer reaches with views of the bay that made dinner guests audibly gasp, and of course, Ashley, his spectacularly intelligent wife of 7 years, whose laugh could make strangers turn their heads in coffee shops. Ashley, with her chestnut hair and marketing director title at a promising eco-tech startup, completed the picture of their Instagram-worthy life. Friends and colleagues regarded them as the quintessential power couple. Successful, attractive, with shared values and enough inside jokes to fill a stand-up special. The day began like any other in the carefully curated Raymond household. Michael awakened to the gentle vibration of his smartwatch, because actual sound is so 2010, crafted himself an espresso from their automated coffee machine that cost more than his first car, and settled at his laptop to check emails while Ashley slept. This was their rhythm. Him, the early riser with morning productivity bursts. Her, the night owl who did her best strategic thinking after 10 p.m. A notification from their cloud storage app caught his attention. New photos added to shared album. Nothing unusual there. They'd been using the same cloud account for family photos since before it was considered a potential privacy nightmare. Initially, he almost dismissed the alert, but curiosity nudged him to click. Maybe Ashley had uploaded pictures from yesterday's corporate mixer, the one he'd skipped because of a project deadline that suddenly seemed absolutely critical around 6 p.m. when he'd have to make small talk with strangers. What he saw made his forehead crease into what Ashley called his debugging frown. This wasn't the album he expected. Instead of corporate networking photos featuring uncomfortable smiles and cheap Chardonnay, he found several shots taken at what appeared to be an upscale restaurant. One image featured Ashley sitting at a table with a wine glass, smiling that particular smile, the one that made her eyes crinkle at the corners, the one that had always been his. But she wasn't alone. Across from her sat a man Michael had never seen before. Tall, with a close-cropped haircut and a confident smile that immediately made Michael dislike him. The photo had clearly been taken by a third person. Weird, Michael thought. She said the party was at their office. He checked the photo metadata, because of course he did. That's what developers do when something doesn't compute. The timestamp read 11:45 p.m. at a restaurant across town from Ashley's startup headquarters. And the time, that was odd too, since Ashley had returned home around midnight, claiming she'd stayed late for networking with potential clients. Michael felt an unpleasant chill, like an unexpected system error in his perfectly functioning life. He wasn't prone to jealousy or surveillance state levels of monitoring, but something about this situation felt off-key, like code that compiles but doesn't run right. Could this be innocent business networking with a potential partner? But why? Say she was at the office? And why were these photos in their shared cloud? He heard footsteps on the stairs. Ashley descending, already dressed for work, impeccable in her business attire with not a hint of last night's late hours showing on her face. "Morning, babe." She leaned down and kissed his cheek, her perfume momentarily enveloping him. "You're up early. Something urgent at work?" Michael closed the browser tab with the photos, like a teenager caught looking at something inappropriate. "No, just checking email. How was the party last night?" "Oh, you know, the usual. Lots of business talk, a bit of champagne. Nothing special." She poured herself coffee. "We've got an investor presentation today, so I'll be home late. Don't wait up for dinner." Michael nodded, trying not to broadcast the confusion swirling inside him. Ashley had never lied to him before, at least, not as far as he knew. They'd always prided themselves on their transparency with each other, even about uncomfortable truths like his snoring or her tendency to buy houseplants she couldn't keep alive. And yet, something wasn't adding up in the equation of their marriage. After Ashley left, Michael skipped his morning run. Instead, he returned to his laptop and began examining the mysterious photos more carefully. He zoomed in on the image, trying to get a better look at the man. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar. Michael took a screenshot and performed an image search. To his surprise, results appeared quickly. James Lorenz, Chief Technology Officer of Green Future Tech. Ironically, this was the very company Michael's firm had recently begun partnership negotiations with. Michael leaned back in his chair, processing this information. Perhaps there was a simple explanation. Ashley might be meeting James for work. Reasons? After all, their companies were indeed potentially collaborating. But why hide this? And why did these photos have such an intimate quality to them? Throughout the day, Michael couldn't focus on work. His mind kept returning to the morning's discovery like a bug he couldn't squash. During his lunch break, instead of joining colleagues for overpriced sandwiches and tech industry gossip, he remained in his office and started digging deeper. He checked Ashley's social media accounts but found nothing unusual. The same work posts, photos of their joint vacations, occasional selfies with friends. Then he remembered they had set up a family location sharing function, a safety measure implemented after Ashley once left her phone in a taxi and spent 3 panicked hours trying to recover it. Michael opened the app and checked Ashley's location history for the past month. What he saw made his stomach clench like it was trying to digest a particularly unpleasant piece of code. Over the last 3 weeks, Ashley had visited several places she never mentioned. That same restaurant from the photo, an address in a residential area of Palo Alto, even a hotel near the airport. Each time coincided with days she claimed to be working late or meeting friends. Michael rubbed his eyes, refusing to believe what he was seeing. 7 years of marriage without a single serious crisis. They had always been each other's rock, always honest. Had he been so blind all this time? Or had this started recently, and why? On his way home, he stopped at the grocery store and bought ingredients for carbonara, Ashley's favorite dish. He decided against confronting her or asking questions until he gathered more information. Maybe there was an innocent explanation for all of this. Maybe he was just being paranoid. At home, he prepared dinner and opened a bottle of wine, but Ashley never arrived. At 10 o'clock, she sent a message. "Sorry, honey, still in the investor meeting. Negotiations are going well, but running long. We'll be late. Don't wait up." Michael set down his phone and looked at the cooling dinner. Then he opened the location tracking app. Ashley wasn't at her company's office. According to the map, she was in that same residential area in Palo Alto. He zoomed in and saw the exact address, a complex called Oasis. A few clicks later, he discovered that one of the apartment owners in this complex was James Lorenz. Michael felt the ground drop away beneath him like a poorly maintained elevator in free fall. This couldn't be explained away as coincidence or professional relationships. His wife, the person he trusted most in the world, was lying to him. And, apparently not just today. He didn't sleep all night, sitting in the living room with a glass of whiskey, watching as the digital dot representing Ashley finally moved toward their home around 2 in the morning. When she quietly opened the door, he was still sitting there in darkness, phone in hand. "Michael, why are you still up?" Ashley froze in the doorway, turning on the light. How was the investor meeting? His voice remained even, though everything inside him was boiling like an overheated server room. "Good. We secured the funding." She looked tense as she removed her coat. "Why are you sitting in the dark? Did something happen?" Michael showed her his phone screen with the location tracking app open. "Oasis Residential Complex, Palo Alto. Doesn't look much like your company's office." Ashley's face transformed. From surprise to realization, then to panic, and finally to resignation. She slowly sank into the armchair across from him. "Michael, I can explain." "Really? Can you explain why you've been lying to me for weeks? Can you explain why you were at James Lorenz's apartment until 2 in the morning?" Ashley looked as if she'd been slapped. "How do you—" How do you know about James? That doesn't matter. What matters is that my wife spends nights at another man's apartment and lies to me about it. Michael felt his voice crack. What's happening? Ashley? I deserve the truth. Ashley remained silent for a long time, staring at her hands as though they belonged to someone else. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, like someone confessing to a crime they never thought they'd commit. We met at an environmental technology conference 3 months ago. It started as just business conversations. His company is developing technologies that could benefit our startup. We exchanged contacts, started talking, and then she took a deep breath that seemed to pull all the oxygen from the room. I didn't plan this, Michael. I swear, it just happened. Just happened, Michael repeated with the bitter laugh of someone who's just discovered their warranty expired yesterday. 7 years of marriage, and you say it just happened? What does he have that I don't? Ashley shook her head, her eyes glistening. It's not about that. This isn't a comparison shopping situation. The last couple of years, we stopped really talking, Michael. You disappeared into your projects, I vanished into mine. We live together, but sometimes I feel so alone, it's like I'm shouting across the Grand Canyon. And James, he listened. He was interested in what I was saying, what I was feeling. Michael felt anger mixing with pain and bewilderment like a cocktail no one would order twice. And instead of talking to me about this, you decided to have an affair? That's your solution? I know it's not an excuse. Ashley raised her eyes, tears now flowing freely. I made a terrible mistake, but I didn't know how to talk to you about how I felt. You always seemed so content with our life. I was afraid of breaking that. Michael stood and walked to the window, gazing at the San Francisco night, city lights blinking like error messages. He tried to process what he'd heard. Had he really been so detached that he didn't notice his wife feeling lonely? Or was this just a convenient justification for her infidelity? How long has this been going on? He asked, not turning around. 2 months, Ashley answered quietly. And do you love him? A heavy pause filled the space between them. I don't know, she finally replied. I'm confused, Michael. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't know what to do. Michael turned and looked at his wife, the woman he loved more than anyone else in the world, who now seemed like a stranger wearing a familiar face. You need to leave, he said quietly. I can't be around you right now. I need space to think. Ashley nodded, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. She stood and headed toward the stairs, presumably to gather some belongings. Michael remained in the living room, feeling their shared life crumbling around him like poorly written legacy. Code. The next morning, he called work and took personal leave. Unable to stay in the house filled with memories, he booked a hotel room and spent the next few days trying to sort through his feelings. Anger, pain, distrust, but also doubts. Had he really missed something important in their relationship? Was he partly to blame for what happened? On the 3rd day at the hotel, Michael received an email from Ashley. I'm staying at Sarah's. When you're ready to talk, let me know. I'll wait. Sarah was Ashley's best friend since college, and Michael was glad Ashley hadn't gone to James, which would have made the situation even more painful. He didn't respond to the email. Instead, he continued diving into the digital footprints of their life together, browsing old photos, reading their messages, trying to pinpoint the moment when everything started going wrong. But the more he searched, the fewer answers he found. On Saturday, almost a week after the night he discovered the affair, Michael sat in a small cafe near the hotel, forcing himself to eat something, when his phone vibrated. It was a notification from their shared cloud storage. Ashley Raymond has shared a folder with you. Michael opened the notification with the caution of someone disarming a bomb. The folder was simply called For Michael and contained several files. The first was a PDF document titled Read This First. Michael downloaded the file and began reading. Dear Michael, I know no words can fix what I've done. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I'm not sure I deserve it. but I want you to know the truth, the whole truth. In this folder, I've gathered everything related to my affair. Here's my correspondence with James, starting from the first email. Here are the photos you've already seen, and others you haven't. Here's my personal diary for the past 6 months that I kept in an app. I decided to give you complete access to my digital life because you deserve to know what really happened without distortions or excuses. It's painful, and I'm ashamed of much of what you'll find there, but I don't want to hide the truth anymore. When you're ready to talk, if you ever want to talk to me again, I'll be waiting. Whatever you decide, I'll understand. With love, yes, despite everything, I still love you. Ashley. Michael set down his phone, feeling mixed emotions swirling like a poorly mixed cocktail. On one hand, he appreciated this gesture of openness. On the other, he wasn't sure he wanted to know all the details of Ashley's relationship with James. Some things, once seen, can't be unseen, like that one Reddit thread about hotel bed sheets that still haunts his dreams. He paid for his coffee and returned to his hotel room. There, sitting on the edge of the bed like someone about to jump into ice water, he began reviewing the folder's contents, starting with the correspondence. The first messages were indeed strictly business. Gradually, the tone became more personal, with jokes appearing, then compliments. Michael could trace how professional relationships transformed into friendship, then into something more. He noticed that Ashley initially resisted this closeness, mentioning her husband in conversations. But over time, references to Michael became increasingly rare, like a character being written out of a TV show. Then he opened Ashley's diary. The first entries were full of routine notes about work, home, sometimes plans for the future. There were entries about him, Michael, mostly warm, loving. But then other notes appeared. Michael worked late again, ate dinner alone, 4th time this week. Or, tried to tell M about my startup ideas, but he was too busy with his project. Sometimes I feel like he's barely listening. These entries made Michael pause and reflect. He'd always thought he supported Ashley's career, was proud of her achievements. But had he really listened to her? Had he really given her the attention she deserved? Or had he been too wrapped up in his own professional universe, assuming their relationship would maintain itself like a well-designed program running in the background? Then, entries about James began. Talked with Jay via video call again today. It's strange, but I can talk to him about everything. He asks questions, real questions, not just polite ones. And later, I know this is wrong. I know I should stop. But when I'm with him, I feel alive, feel seen, really seen. The last entry was dated the day after their confrontation when everything was revealed. I've destroyed everything. Michael's face when he showed me the map. I'll never forget that look. All my life I've considered myself an honest person. How could I lie so much to someone I love? Because yes, I still love him. And now that I may have lost him forever, I realize I never stopped loving him. James, it was different with him. Exciting. New. But it wasn't love. It was euphoria. A fantasy. Real love is what Michael and I had. And I broke it. Michael closed the app. Feeling tears welling up, he had always thought he and Ashley had a perfect marriage. Now he understood that perfect doesn't mean flawless. They had both made mistakes. Different in scale, but mistakes nonetheless. He had become distant, immersed in work. She had sought attention elsewhere instead of talking to him about her needs. They had both failed each other. 2 days later, Michael sent Ashley a short message. I'm at Golden Gate Park, near the Japanese tea garden. If you're free, maybe meet me there at noon? He arrived early and waited on a bench, watching tourists photograph the scenic views. This place held special meaning for them both. Here, 5 years ago, they had sat and dreamed about the future, about the house they would one day buy, maybe even about children. All those dreams now seemed distant, belonging to other people, from another life, like photos of strangers in a thrift store picture frame. Ashley arrived precisely at noon. She looked pale with dark circles under her eyes. evidence that the last week had been as torturous for her as it was for him. In that moment, he felt a strange comfort in their shared misery, like two survivors of the same shipwreck. "Hi," she said quietly, sitting beside him but maintaining a respectful distance. "Hi," Michael replied. "Thanks for coming." They sat in silence for a while, watching passers-by. Then Michael spoke. "I read everything you sent. It wasn't easy." Ashley nodded, not looking at him. "I know. I'm so sorry, Michael. For everything. I've thought a lot this week," he continued, "about us, about how we got to this point. And I realized I'm partly to blame too." Ashley turned to him, surprised. "No, Michael, what you did was wrong," he interrupted her. "And it hurt. A lot. I'm not going to pretend it didn't, but I also understand that we both contributed to the situation that led to this. I stopped really listening to you. I thought being physically present was enough, but emotionally, I was miles away, debugging some other life." Ashley looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I should have told you, should have talked to you, instead of seeking comfort elsewhere. It's my fault, Michael. I failed you." "Yes, you did," he agreed. "And I don't know if we can ever get back to what we had. I don't know if I can fully trust again, but I want to try. Not for what was, but for what could be, if that's what you want too." Ashley took his hand, her fingers trembling. "More than anything in the world. I love you, Michael. I made a terrible mistake, but I never stopped loving you." "I love you too," he said, squeezing her hand. "But if we're going to try again, we need to completely change how we communicate. We need help. Professional help." "Couples therapy?" Ashley asked. "Yes, and we both have a lot of work to do. I can't promise it will be easy or that we'll succeed, but I'm willing to try if you are too." Ashley nodded, tears flowing freely down her cheeks. "I'll do whatever it takes. Anything to fix what I broke." "What we broke," Michael gently corrected. "And what we'll rebuild. Together." They sat there holding hands until the sun slowly began to set. The future was uncertain, the path to healing long and difficult. But in that moment, amidst the beauty of the Japanese garden, both felt a glimmer of hope, like the first successful compile after days of debugging. A year later, Michael and Ashley sat in the same park, on the same bench. Spring was in full bloom, cherry blossoms scattering delicate pink petals everywhere like nature's own confetti celebration. "I can't believe it's been a whole year," Ashley said, gazing at the tea garden. "The hardest year of my life," Michael admitted, "but probably also the most important one, like that critical update that fixes all the security vulnerabilities you didn't even know you had." After that conversation in the park, they had begun the long journey of rebuilding trust. Weekly sessions with a couples therapist, honest and often painful conversations, gradually revealing to each other parts of themselves they had hidden even from themselves. Michael confessed that he often felt insecure around successful, vibrant Ashley, so he immersed himself in work, where his competence was unquestionable. Ashley talked about her fear of losing herself in relationships, which led her to create emotional distance between them. There was also the more practical side of their recovery. They created new rituals, weekly date nights without phones or other devices, joint projects that required collaboration and open communication. Ashley changed jobs to avoid any contact with James and never mentioned him again. That was a closed chapter in their life, deleted and overwritten with new memories. "Remember how we started this gratitude journal?" Michael asked with a smile, pulling a small leather notebook from his backpack. It was their therapist's idea. Every evening, write down something they were grateful for in each other. Of course, Ashley took the notebook, flipping through pages filled with their handwriting. "At first it was so hard to find something that didn't sound fake or cliché. And now sometimes there's not enough space to write everything down," Michael added. It was true. After several months of therapy, when the initial shock and pain began to subside, they discovered they were getting to know each other anew, and themselves. Honest conversations and joint efforts to rebuild their relationship had led to a new level of intimacy they had never experienced before. There were difficult moments, of course, bouts of jealousy and distrust from Michael when Ashley worked late or when her phone rang in the evening. Moments of shame and self-recrimination from Ashley when memories of her betrayal were too vivid. But with each passing month, these moments became rarer and shorter. "You know what struck me today?" Ashley asked, looking at the park filled with people strolling under blooming trees. "The fact that our digital footprints are intertwined again. In the cloud, in streaming accounts, in food delivery apps, all these little data points showing we're back together." Michael nodded. The experience had forever changed his relationship with technology. He now understood that a person's digital footprint could tell their life story as clearly as lines on a palm. Sometimes that story is painful, sometimes beautiful, but always real. "I have something for you," he said, taking a small box from his pocket. Inside was a silver bracelet with a small lock-shaped charm. "It's not just jewelry. I ordered
it from a craftsman who embeds NFC chips and accessories."
Ashley raised an eyebrow questioningly, and Michael continued. "If you tap it to your phone, it opens our shared digital time capsule. I created an app where we can add memories, notes to each other, photos, music, everything we want to preserve. It's our private digital archive." Ashley took the bracelet, examining it with growing excitement. "That's amazing, Michael. You created this yourself?" "Yeah, been working on it for the last couple of months. Wanted to make something special for the anniversary of our, second chance." Ashley put on the bracelet and tapped it to her phone. The screen displayed an app with a timeline starting from the date of their conversation in the park a year ago. The first entry was a video Michael recorded that same evening, talking about his hopes for their future, about how much he loved Ashley despite all the pain. "God, Michael," Ashley whispered, not hiding her tears. "I don't know how I deserve this second chance." "By fighting for us as hard as I did," Michael replied, embracing her. "We both earned this new chapter." Ashley leaned against him, feeling the warmth of his body and the familiar scent that had always meant home to her. This year taught them both that real closeness isn't just physical or even emotional. It's a deep connection based on honesty, vulnerability, and constant work on the relationship. They sat in the park until sunset, scrolling through the app to view their shared memories from the past year, screenshots of their long text exchanges, when one was working late, joint photos from therapeutic retreats, audio messages they left for each other on particularly difficult days, a collection of moments that formed their new life together. "Speaking of technology," Ashley suddenly said, opening a file on her phone, "I have a surprise for you, too." She handed him the phone. On the screen was an electronic reservation for a chalet in the Colorado mountains, a place Michael had always dreamed about. "It's for next weekend," Ashley explained. "I took time off work, thought we should celebrate all of this, a year of work, a new beginning." Michael looked at the reservation, then at his wife, the woman he had lost and found again during this challenging year. "There's no Wi-Fi," Ashley added with a smile. "No digital footprints, just us." "Sounds perfect," Michael replied, kissing her. Over this year, they learned the most important lesson. In a world saturated with technology, it's easy to create an illusion of closeness, but real connection between people requires much more than moving your life online. It requires the courage to be vulnerable, sincere, imperfect, and open to growing alongside another person. When they finally stood to go home, Michael took Ashley's hand. "Ready for the next chapter?" Ashley squeezed his hand in response. "More than ready, together." That was the story of Michael and Ashley. What do you think? Did they make the right choices? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like this video. See you in the next story.